Good evening, Coastal. So I had the opportunity actually yesterday to be able to conduct a virtual pre-closing orientation. So I wanted to be able to reach out to the team here and kind of share, my experience and maybe come up with some tips and tricks on how to maybe conduct your own virtual pre-closing orientation. Unfortunately, I didn't really get the ability to use the Microsoft Teams app that we've been educated on over the past month or so. However, I actually had the luxury of having the realtor right there with me, so we were able just to kind of log right into to the FaceTime app, and the realtor essentially followed me around the entire house to the entire meeting. I'm sure some of you guys out there have already experienced, what it takes to actually, navigate your way through a virtual pre-closing orientation. However, in order to create a little bit of consistency in the market, I thought it might be good to kind of reach out to the team and, share some of the things that you definitely want to make sure you're keyed in on and make sure you're doing some of the stuff out there when it comes to, what it takes, before, during, and after the pre-closing orientation. So I took a few notes after my meeting yesterday right here. So I just wanted to have the opportunity to kind of reach out to you guys and share with you what my experience was yesterday. So the first thing I'd like to talk about with you guys is what happens before the orientation. How are you guys preparing yourselves for your virtual meeting, essentially? So the good thing about this is, just because you have a virtual meeting does not mean it really changes your process at all. When it comes to staging the house for your meeting, something I always like to do is come in the house about an hour prior to my meeting and stage the entire house. I like to, turn all the lights on. If I've got a fireplace, I like to turn the fireplace on. You just kind of have that effect for the homeowner as they walk in the house. But pre-staging the house is a big one. Make sure everything is nice and clean for the homeowners. Definitely something that's definitely not new to any of us out there in the field. But I just think, as the homeowner walks in the house, everything is nice and bright. You don't have to turn on lights as you're walking into rooms. I think that's definitely critical. So pre-staging the house is definitely a big one for me. Definitely like to, be able to showcase a well-lit, clean, 100% complete home for the homeowner. Another thing that's important to make attention to is, is the homeowner familiar essentially with the software that you're going to be presenting the meeting on? We've again been educated on Microsoft Teams over the past couple months, so we definitely want to make sure that our homeowners are very well educated prior to that meeting on how to use that software essentially. If it's not a live stream meeting, you have the ability to use recording technology. So actually the way that I'm actually recording this video right now is I've got myself set up on a tripod, and what's really cool about it is I actually have the ability to walk around the house, and it will actually track my movement as I walk around the house. So there's some really, really cool technology out there that is available to you guys. If you want to know exactly what I'm using here in this pre-recorded video today, feel free to reach out to me. I'll let you know what equipment I've got set up on. But yeah, so you want to just make sure the homeowner is familiar with the software that you're using prior to the meeting. Again, we've been educated on how to actually set the homeowner up on Microsoft Teams prior to any sort of virtual meeting that we have with them. Everything has essentially been uploaded now to SharePoint, so you guys have the ability to look on SharePoint, review the videos, send a link to the homeowner so they can actually review how to actually operate the software that you're going to be conducting the meeting on. So really good stuff there. Another thing that I always like to do before any meeting, whether it's in person or virtually, is I like to pre-stage all my documentation. So obviously, you can either pre-stage it, here, and if you've got, again, if you've got a tripod with, some tracking technology on it, you'll be able to kind of show them as you're going through the documentation. But another thing I like to do is I like to send all that documentation to the homeowner prior to the meeting. So again, you can use your sales agent too if you need to download that information and send it out to the homeowner. Pretty much everything again has been uploaded into SharePoint now, so you guys are going to have the ability to use that to send to your homeowners. And if there's any documentation that you guys see here that you do not have the ability to send out to your homeowners, it's as easy as taking a quick picture of it, scan it into any software that you like to use, create a PDF, and then send it to your homeowner that way. Make sure you got all your documentation ready to go for the homeowners, and you'll be reviewing that with them obviously through your meeting. The next thing I like to go through is, especially if you're going to be using, a camera setup, whether it's a tripod or you're just going to essentially, have somebody follow you around the house with the camera. Make sure you've got, some pre-staged locations. You want this to be as seamless as possible. The video quality here is extremely clear right now because this is a pre-recorded video, but as soon as you guys start using any sort of streaming technology, obviously it's completely dependent on your connection. So it's going to be a little bit choppy already that way. So you just want to make sure that as you're walking through the house, you know exactly, what your route is. I always like to start my meetings out in the garage. And then as we get inside, I pick one room of the house and I just either make my way counterclockwise or clockwise through the entire house. Another thing that I have here, especially when you're working in Microsoft Teams, it just kind of goes back to documentation. Make sure you guys have all that stuff ready to go. So, if there's documents that you want to share to the homeowner, let's say you didn't send it out to them prior to the meeting, have that documentation ready to go up on your computer on Microsoft Teams. And again, we've been educated on how to be able to share that documentation. So you can just pull all that stuff up on your computer. I'm running right now off of my cell phone. I've got my computer right next to me right here. So I would be able to be in Microsoft Teams, be able to pull up any of that documentation. Let's say I've got a PowerPoint that I wanted to show them. I could pull a PowerPoint up and, navigate through a PowerPoint presentation with them. So there's a lot of different stuff out there available to us right now that does allow us to get through a meeting and cover all of our documentation. And again, if you guys have any questions on, how to do any of this stuff, reach out to your CFTs. There's been plenty of people that have had some extensive training on this now. So there's plenty of people out there right now that do have the knowledge to explain how to do all this stuff for you if you're not quite caught up on it. The last thing I wanted to share, before you even start the meeting, kind of have an idea of the overall quality of your house. Do you have any punch work that, you just kind of noticed last minute, maybe right before the meeting started? I think something that's incredibly important is, be willing to share that with your homeowners. There's already going to be a little anxiety maybe coming into a virtual meeting just because the homeowners aren't, they don't have the opportunity to actually be here, be able to kind of play with things, in person. So there's going to be a little anxiety there. So, don't shy away from, being able to show the homeowner some of the stuff that you're already working on. I feel like it generates that trust and it builds a little bit of rapport with the homeowner. So be willing to share that content with your homeowners as you're walking through the house. So that's just some of the quick little, tips and tricks as you're preparing for your meeting. So let's talk about what to do during the meeting. And again, I could probably spend an entire hour on how to actually conduct a pre-closing orientation. But really what I want to talk about here is, what it takes during the meeting virtually. So if you guys aren't completely familiar with how to conduct a pre-closing orientation, again, feel free to reach out to your CFT. We can always get you some extra training on how to conduct a pre-closing orientation. And then of course you guys have your inline books. Definitely, don't feel bad about having to break out an inline book and just, follow all the steps in your inline book. I think one of the toughest things during your meeting is to, generate some excitement for the homeowners. Some of us, charisma isn't our number one quality, but, a good tip there is, if you want to add some charisma to the meeting, rely on your sales team. Go grab a sales agent. They're always full of charisma. I've done it a few times. Anytime that I might have a tough homeowner, I'll go grab the sales agent and just ask them if they want to, help conduct a pre-closing orientation for about 5-10 minutes and just kind of break the ice per se. So you definitely want to try to avoid using your warranty team as your catch-all. Obviously this is a virtual meeting. And warranty is definitely there to help us out, after closing, but definitely don't rely on them 100% to make sure that the homeowner is going to be taken care of, the day that they move in. I feel like that's definitely something that is the responsibility of the field manager to make sure that, as you're walking your house at your pre-closing orientation, those punch items you definitely want to make sure are getting done prior to closing if at all possible. But definitely just don't pass the buck off to the warranty team and say that, hey, I get it, we're doing a virtual meeting today, but don't worry, our warranty team's going to take care of you, once you guys move in. I would definitely, shy away from that as much as possible and try to get as much done for the homeowner prior to them actually coming to see the house for the first time. And that just kind of leads me to my last little point right here. Be sure to ask questions, encourage questions for the homeowner. So you want to be able to try to be as thorough as possible, get them engaged as much as possible to pretty much to help eliminate, a lot of those questions that might happen as, they actually come to move in the house. So again, those are just some, quick little tips on how to navigate through your meeting. And then lastly, what do we do after the meeting is essentially done? This is probably the most critical portion of your meeting, essentially, is your follow-up process. So, obviously, you probably walk the house. The homeowners, hopefully have a really good feeling about their house. But again, I feel like there's probably still going to be a little bit of that, anxiety is, what is my house going to look like, the day that I show up? So I think the most critical thing that I like to do is make sure I've got a follow-up process with my homeowners and know it's not just that, the actual build quality celebration, or it's not just that closing meeting. It's really move-in day. Find out when the homeowners are going to be moving in and try to make yourself available to them. So, if they do have any really important questions or concerns, you're going to be available to help navigate any questions or concerns that they might have. So definitely plan on that, as you're conducting that orientation meeting. Find out when they're actually going to be moving in the house and do everything you can to make yourself available. Or if you're just absolutely not available and, you might have another meeting that day, reach out to a warranty representative. See if, one of your team members has the opportunity just to at least stop by and say hello and make sure they're settling in okay. So I would say that's probably my number one critical thing after the meeting is conducted. And then I would say my number two, and it's probably a lot of people's number one, is how to coach your home complete. And I think that just goes back to that step one. We know the home complete survey is going to come essentially, but I think if you've got a good follow-up process with that homeowner, you're there the day that they move in. If that's a conversation that you want to have again with them, the day that they move in, I think it's a great idea. So, I don't think, the home complete is something that you should be scared of. If you checked all your boxes prior to closing on the house, you're going to be just fine. Definitely, I think it's critical that you just make yourself available to the homeowner. And as far as your closing meeting, that's something that, again, that you just want to make sure you set up at that pre-closing orientation. Talk about, what you have left to do in the house. You still got your final paint touch-up, your final drywall, and your final clean on the house. And then, again, just review with them, what punch work that you've been working on. If you can, send them updates as your punch items are being completed. And again, it's going to help with the overall trust and rapport, during that final week of construction. So again, those are just some quick little highlights on some of the stuff that I learned in, my virtual pre-closing orientation just yesterday. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, just a quick reminder, I will be creating a PowerPoint presentation after this video, so you'll see that uploaded to SharePoint. But that's essentially all I have for you guys. Hopefully you guys got some really good stuff out of that, and I will see you guys next time.